I don't think it is extravagant. I think it's what it like. There could be a lot more extravagance.
I'm not rolling my eyes.
There's a little microphone here, so
we talked about that yesterday.
Speak into the mic and look at the camera.
No, there's no mic. There's no camera.
You know what I was thinking?
That you fed me too much coffee today. And
I woke up and said, "Hey, guess what? It's a coffee day." So we started off with a maple double espresso. I had a little espresso, and then it moved into coconut macchiatos.
Yeah.
So we're on the double.
Which is great for.
Do you have a favorite book that you've read, or is that a thing? Like, you know, when somebody says, "Do you have a favorite movie?" You could probably name one or two.
Yeah.
Is there a book like that?
Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
Well, okay, so I have lots of favorite books. They're typically pretty short term because I tend to forget. So, like, there was a book called The Glass House.
The Glass House. Don't throw
House
rocks in a glass house.
I have such a bad memory. But so what I remember is
my mom used to tell me that. Don't throw rocks in a glass house.
Right. So I remember the story. So I love true stories. So there's a story of a woman who was held, taken hostage. She's a journalist, or was she just a traveler? Anyway, as you can see, my memory is terrible. But it was really, really good. I think it was called The House in the Sky, and she was held hostage, and it was very common.
What's the writer?
Story. And then, she wrote a book probably with a ghostwriter, but so she was like a captive in Afghanistan. Yeah. And then
my dad used to make me read. I had to read
stories.
Hardy Boys, Willard Price.
There's another one called Wild by Cheryl Strayed that really stuck with me.
And you read the same book over and over again?
No.
Well, you read it once and
I never read this. I never read again.
I'm not an avid reader. No. You love to read?
I haven't read in the last couple months, which is weird.
Yeah, you've been busy doing recovery stuff.
So, but I did read a really, really good book earlier in quarantine, self-isolation period time.
Are we still in that?
I don't know. Yeah, earlier in, I said. And it was about the people that go cross by foot into the States from Mexico. Oh, it was a true story also. It was really good.
I've seen a Drug Inc. show.
No, it was not that. It was like kids and families and
that's a
true story. I forget what it's called right now, but anyway, yeah, those are my favorite books.
All right, let's get at it. Is it November the 2nd?
You're just asking that to fill time?
No,
you don't have a point?
No, just you love reading, and I just figured, is there a book that is? No.
Once I've read it, and then I move on. Oh my gosh, you want to know the best book that I listened to?
The last time I read a full novel was in jail.
I had laser eye surgery, and my friend gave me Trevor Noah's book on audiobooks.
I listened to that too, and then I wasn't on drugs, and so I kept realizing that, haven't we heard this part before?
It doesn't matter.
And you kept replaying it over and over.
It doesn't matter.
It took 3 days to listen to that audiobook.
I could probably listen to it again. I like Trevor Noah.
I love his accent. I'm a fan of the South African accent. I think it's very
and he's
cool.
really funny, and so it was a good book to be sick to.
I have a friend from Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he actually came to visit us in Canada.
I can't think of his name.
Kewen.
Anyway, Kewen. Okay,
yeah.
So that's all.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna read. So we're gonna.
I read the Bible.
That's all.
And some devotional books.
You all of a sudden you forget already what day today is.
Oh, Monday.
It's your stinking contest.
If you have liked, shared, or commented in the past whatever, then I put your name in a book.
No, he doesn't. I do. He has ideas. I do all the work.
Hoda. Perfect example of recovery. And then every Monday we pick a winner, and you can win a T-shirt or a hat or whatever.
A T-shirt, not or whatever. No, you can
a T-shirt or a hat or a 6-pack of kombucha if you live in the area. Why don't you pick?
This person is our friend Elizabeth Simpson MacDonald. Yay!
Yay!
I think
You gotta look at the camera.
Oh yeah.
You're talking.
I don't know technology. I think she private messaged us, and that's why I put her name in the bucket, because she sent us a private message because she had a question.
Well, what we're gonna do is post the winner on the today's stream,
Yes.
and then we will then private message.
Us.
So
And
Elizabeth, please private message.
Tell you how to get your stuff.
Yeah, you too can get a Blessed t-shirt or a Hope It's Famous t-shirt or a Straight Outta Rehab t-shirt.
Or maybe you live where winter comes and you want a toque. Okay.
What do we got?
The grief process. We talked about grief yesterday.
We did talk about grief.
Well, this is a series. Can I look ahead and see, is it a long series? We don't usually look ahead. Nope, it's just 2 days. Okay. To let ourselves wholly grieve so this book is called The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie. We read it every day together because we always do our morning meditation devotional together. The grief process. To let ourselves wholly grieve our losses is how we surrender to the process of life and recovery. Some experts, like Patrick Carnes, call the 12 steps a program for dealing with our losses, a program for dealing with our grief. That was a really good description. How do we grieve? Awkwardly, imperfectly, usually with a great deal of resistance, often with anger and attempts to negotiate, ultimately by surrendering to the pain. The grief process, says Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, is a 5-stage process: denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and finally acceptance. That's how we grieve. That's how we accept. That's how we forgive. That's how we respond to the many changes life throws our way. Although this 5-step process looks tidy on paper, it is not tidy in life. We do not move through it in a compartmentalized manner. I don't do anything in a compartmentalized manner. We usually flounder through, kicking and screaming with much back and forth movement, until we reach that peaceful state called acceptance. When we talk about unfinished business from our past, we are usually referring to losses about which we have not completed grieving. We are talking about being stuck somewhere in the grief process, usually for adult children and codependents. When they say adult children, they mean adult children of alcoholics. And codependents, the place where we become stuck is denial. Passing through denial is the first and most dangerous stage of grieving, but it is also the first step toward acceptance. We can learn to understand the grief process and how it applies to recovery. Even good changes in recovery can bring loss and consequently grief. We can learn to help ourselves and others by understanding and becoming familiar with this process. We can learn to fully grieve our losses, feeling our pain, accept and forgive so we can feel joy and love. Today, God, help me open myself to the process of grieving my losses. Help me allow myself to flow through the grief process, accepting all the stages so I might achieve peace and acceptance in my life. Help me learn to be gentle with myself and others while we go through this very human process of healing.
Kind of similar to yesterday, but kind of getting into the process and that key of acceptance and willingness. While you're reading, I thought of like car keys or my cell phone. Like when you lose those things, your heart goes, and you're like, this is something that I need. Like, where did I put it? And then you start panicking, and then you're like, you throw up a prayer, and then you're like, if you put it in front of me, I'll make my bed for it. And you're bargaining and doing all these things in just a little microcosm of loss. But in recovery, we lose friends, we lose our comforter in drugs and alcohol. We go through these, and it sounds
friends.
Yeah, it seems ridiculous that you're actually grieving, but you have to go through that process of losing your soother.
Do you think you also grieved the best friend that turned out to be a traitor?
Like Judas?
Yeah, wasn't alcohol like your Judas? It was the best friend that
in a way, yeah. And that's what the ridiculous thing is, that normal people, they don't understand that. Like, what do you mean you're sorry that you can't put a needle in your arm? Like, that's a no-brainer of a choice. But here I am having my heart ripped out. I have physical pain, emotional pain, memories of it, and that it's consuming me. So I think it's super important to actually go through a process of grieving. And I think part of rehab recovery of actually going away to being able to do that in a safe place that people understand and they can take you through the process. I know that happened to me. And I don't know if that's needed for everyone, but from my experience, it was helpful for the 5 months that I had to go away, that they actually kind of bring you through that and give you tools to deal with it.
I think therapy is really, I think a lot of people who come to recognize that they have a lot of relationships with people who are alcoholic or addicts or, I think they're going to a therapist, going to a counselor and processing those, like some of us, going to 12-step groups is a really good thing, but that's not therapy. That's not, I think some people, I think
the 12 steps helps you get rid of that stuff.
But what you're talking about, like going to rehab for an addict or an alcoholic, going to rehab is like 100%. Like that's.
And then they're talking about
for a codependent, right? There's not necessarily easily accessible rehab, but a therapist is a very.
Do you know of any?
I do. And actually, do you know what's happened? That's been really cool with COVID is that therapy has actually gone online. So there's counseling so easily accessible right now through online platforms that if somebody messages us and they want a recommendation,
can just wear pajamas.
I know.
All day long.
I know.
Another thing that they brought up is what gets in the way of my processing of the grief is denial. So denial is a mechanism in your mind that actually perpetuates sickness.
Do you want to see what
tomorrow's is? Oh my goodness, it's denial. So that's actually a mechanism that you don't know you have to continue the sick processes that you have.
And denial started as a form of protection.
I think self-protection, but that's why we need community to help us work through the stuff and to be a mirror in front of us and to give great feedback and walk you through stuff.
I 100% step back into denial very quickly when I want to self-protect because this process of the 5-stage process of grief. So first denial, then anger, bargaining, sadness, and finally acceptance. I feel like that I like how she described that it's not like linear, it doesn't just go through linear and you don't just like finish this and then move on to this. Like so often, for me, the way that I lived was totally in denial. And then as I start to come into reality about like the horribleness of everything that was going on and then it got super painful, but then I didn't have the tools. I don't have tools to deal with it. And so that's what things like this book, rehab, going to 12-step groups, going to, different things, reading different books, they can give me tools. But if I don't actually have a relationship with a higher power, then the relationship with the higher power, I think makes me better able to actually
because the whole point
those tools
of the 12 steps is accessing God's power so that he can be your comforter.
Right.
And the whole point of 12 steps isn't to vomit on everybody. It is to die of self, heal, access the power of God, and then be able to help other people.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So that's how we can move forward in our grieving process.
Elizabeth Simpson MacDonald, you need to message us and we will send you the information on how to
PM.
get your
Is there a difference between PMing and DMing?
So it's a private message or a direct message. They would be the same thing.
Huh. Got to learn something every day, and that was it.
I think direct message is a little bit more of like a professional term. Maybe private message didn't sound so professional for businesses and companies and stuff. You don't really want to tell your client, like a business client, to private message you.
Let's go do another round of coffee. It's a coffee day.
Look at this new thing. We can see people's comments.
You can talk and you can comment. You could even wave at people, just like before.
I always feel silly. Anyway.
I hope you guys can get a coffee or 3 into you. And just remember, hockey sticks 6 feet apart and wash your hands. Hockey sticks in hands. FUNDAY Monday winner, Elizabeth. We will see you tomorrow.